Okay, thank you. So we are at open session. I see we have one attendee who's not a panelist or a board member or one of the normal. I was just I didn't see anything in the chat. If that person is here for open session, could you just make yourself known via chat probably that you'd like to speak now? Otherwise, feel free to stick around and chime in when you plan to. And while we wait here, Ryan, for a second, do you have anyone else that you know of that?
I do not, Dan.
Okay. All right. So again, feel free if for some reason in that minute you didn't have a chance to figure it out, just chime in and whenever you want, and we'll get you in. So we don't have any announcements, is that correct?
None, but I do know that we had a very successful field day since the last time we've met. I don't know if Katie, you wanted to recap. You're on mute.
Sorry, forgot about the mute. So yeah, field day went really well. The Lions were there and participated and did a really nice ceremony. You can see the video on the Facebook. I did it live. But yeah, all the vendors had a good day and there was plenty of food. Everyone loved the band and there was, just a nice day to be outside during COVID. So yeah, that was pretty much it. And hopefully next year we can go back to a little bit more normal where the Lions deal with it and not so much on me.
I'd love to get the video if you could send it. I will post it.
I did it on Facebook Live, so no video. It was live. Sorry.
Okay.
And just one other, I guess, to close the loop on the Hubbardston 5K run walk. The results were available after, I think, the 12th. I'm not exactly sure when we last met. Can't remember. I don't think so. But there were a good amount of runners and walkers, which was nice to see on a year like this, and hopefully Mark and others can keep it going in the future.
Did I see you were at 21 minutes?
No, we were like 20. My daughter beat it. My older daughter was at 21 something, I think, and then my other daughter and I were in the high 22s. So we were right in there.
You guys are fast. I take back my challenge.
Not accepted. Okay, presentations. We have the fiscal year 21 department goals, which is different than our TA and BOS goals, which we'll go into later.
All right, so these are the we ask all of our department heads and key staff, full-time staff to do goals, just like we do here on the Board of Selectmen, and I do for myself. So this will be sent out, posted tomorrow, and sent out to the public. Just wanted to give the Board of Selectmen a brief presentation from the staff on goals they've set for themselves and what we're working on for department improvements this year. So briefly, why we set goals is in mostly for our staff, it's to create unity of effort. So rather than working in silos, we want everybody to be working on things that combine into larger projects because of our limited resources and staff. It also gives us accountability with the public. So we have these goals, we put them out publicly, and we strive to meet them. Keeping our goals simple so it's not overwhelming, we focus on three things. How do we make ourselves better? How do we tie to the overall strategic vision, and how do we improve our departments? So the strategic vision is to develop our competencies in order to increase public trust. So we want the public to see that we are doing things the way they're supposed to be done as best as they possibly can. That creates a trust that allows us to ask for resources when necessary. And as we've alluded to in the past, everything is tied to a plan. So overall, how do we improve competencies? We focus on the long term first through the master plan and vision, which are both works in progress, but coming along nicely. And then whether it be this board or myself, we work on budget policy and growth in order to create the resources and limit the tax burden, which allows us to provide services and develop opportunities for the future. And then we continually assess ourselves using things like this, goals, also resident feedback, how people are voting on major efforts, and our financial reporting. And this is just a little graphic to guide the staff. When we say competence, we want professionalism, strong communication, good fiscal responsibility, and strong policy and procedure. 4 things we try and develop at all times. And then within that, we need innovation and accountability, and that will allow us to improve that public trust. And all of our goals, most people are familiar with this acronym by now. I kick back some goals when it just says, you know, I want to do better at something. We want to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, so that these goals can matter and it's not just a administration exercise. Okay, so I'm going to pick one from each department just to highlight to this board and the public. From my own, the department goal, so how I'm trying to improve our department, the executive department, is to become fully compliant by the end of FY21 with our HR policies. This includes implementing some best practices that you'll hear about at your next meeting from a report we had done by UMass, and then using existing funds to hire an intern or a contractor to make sure that our employee folders and all the policies that we're working on, which you'll see at your next meeting, are trained and enacted so that we're doing right by our employees and by the law. And then these are things I asked to do. They're not in this report, but each department is asked to improve themselves somehow. So the executive office will lead with this. One of my focuses this year is to tie all the plans together in one big plan, a 10-year plan, and try and cost that out and get boards to buy into their particular piece of it. So this would be part of the implementation of the master plan and tying in all financial policies and department policies. And then from Bobby, we have her vision goal. So how would we increase public trust? Bobby's committing to posting the Board of Selectmen meetings immediately after immediately after meetings, in order for folks to see that feedback immediately, especially cogent in the COVID environment. And then we want to post agendas sooner than the Thursday prior. That should be our deadline, and get that information out so the public has more time to comment or question or decide whether they want to attend. This is Sandy from the Collector Treasurer's Office. Her vision goal, so how does she increase public trust? We want to eliminate all audit concerns. One of those is happening tonight, the ambulance receivables, which we'll talk about soon. So address every aspect of the audit. Some are more, it sounds a simple project, but a lot of them are very involved and take years to clean up. So we're working on those small things we have in the audit, the non-material findings, to try and make our financial situation even better. On the assessing side, this is George, but also Christina. So Christina wants to take the assessing 101. So she's really good at policy and really good at marshaling the board and resources, but she wants to get even more invested into the assessing world so she can better set department level policy guides and guide her board when it's needed. Okay, our town accountant, this is someone that I work with very closely on her vision goal. So we're working on labeling all of our town accounts, making sure we know and create a guide for folks to follow for every single account we have, and those that we don't need or that are relics from the past, we are working very diligently to eliminate. And this just further cements our ability to claim that we are fiscally strong, and making sure that the auditors understand that we are working through every part of our financial aspect and trying to improve ourselves. Okay, Lori in the town's clerk office wants to use her new software platforms. You saw some of that with the appointment process, which we've been trying to streamline and clean up. So moving all of her information into software platforms so we can print even more transparent reports and make sure that we're following and meeting every deadline. Land use, this is Mallory. So she's slowly consolidating all of our small departments into one land use department, which is a sustainable focus of mine, to try and get all of our land use assisted by one professional who can be there full time to make sure that every board feels supported and has that assistant level care. If you picture like our ZBA, for example, which is meeting tonight, really important board, they only meet every so often, and they need just as much assistant help when they do meet as some of the larger departments like the planning board or the building department. So consolidating in this way is going to allow us to give them that support. For the planning department, Christina is working on checklists for everyone who applies in the planning board process so that they're submitting all the documents and it's really easy for them to understand, because a lot of things on the planning board side can be difficult. We want to make sure that we're allowing applicants to be streamlined so that they're judged on their merits and not a bureaucracy that would prevent growth. Okay, Public Works, the cross-training goal under department goals that Travis has come up with is something that we're working on. So we want to make sure that all of our DPW employees have all they need to run all the equipment. So the town has invested in this equipment so we can do strong road maintenance and other public works projects. We want to make sure that everyone in the department understands how to use these so that we can always be reactive to the needs of the town. Police department, professional development, Chief Perrin's committed to having our officers attend some racial justice training to keep up with some of the state of affairs in the country, and also do some training on de-escalation of force, just to make sure that our department is right up there with the national trends and is ready to react to anything. Although we don't have some of the issues of larger towns or cities, Chief Perrin wants to make sure that all of his officers are ready for whatever might come. And on the fire department, a goal it's been a goal for a little bit now, but we are focusing on increasing our call staff so that we can make sure that we're meeting the demands of our fire and ambulance and have enough personnel to react to all timeframes. Council on Aging, under professional development, Claudia and her volunteers are working on improving their proficiency with My Senior Center, which is a very strong virtual platform that allows for outreach, which is specifically or is very important in a COVID era. So this platform allows them to do a lot with a little bit, and that's very important when you have a part-time paid staff and mostly volunteers in the Council on Aging. And then the library, they spent a lot of time on their 5-year strategic plan. So Chris is working through that plan to make sure they're hitting all of the focuses of the Library Board of Trustees. I attended one of their meetings soon, and they are using this strategic plan. It is available online and is allowing them to strengthen their service delivery. And lastly, Sarah in Veteran Services, her vision goal, how to improve public trust. She wants to help residents who've asked or said it would be a good time to have a Vietnam memorial erected in town. So she's going to try and lead that process for them and get that done in the next year. So the departments have many goals. This is just a brief overview. And again, we'll put this report online and send it out to folks. But for the small staff we have, they are very professionally engaged and trying to do everything they can to make sure that even though we are a small town, we provide maximum level of service with a little bit of resources.
How involved are you with suggestions for goals for, within the department?
So we communicate, that departments and I communicate a lot, and we try to have conversations about what could make this better, what could make it more efficient. I feed ideas in that way, but most of this is coming from the departments. We have a really good team right now, and I work with them to try and connect their ideas to the bigger picture, but really their goal development is 90% them.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, unless anyone has anything, we'll move on to sort of segue into what you alluded to there, which is the 4A, the ambulance billing abatement. We've got we don't talk about this all that often. And clearly the numbers are striking. So you want to set the table here?
Yes, so we run an ambulance department here in town, for those who don't know, and we receive revenue from the billing of that ambulance service. So in order to facilitate this and to make it efficient, a lot of small towns hire companies. Ours is Comstar, who handle all the billing for our town. And most people, like with taxes and others, most people pay their bills, but there are some cases where bills go unpaid, and that causes an issue for us because we rely on that revenue to fund our budget and help support the costs associated with the ambulance. So several years now, the auditors have pointed out that we have a long list of receivables. This is bills that are unpaid that are still in our books as something that we need to collect, and we need to do something about that. So the more those collect and carry on from year to year, the more financial liability you have, which is, something that most people in business understand. So there are some statutory issues with bill collection. Some of our bills are so old at this point that we would have to go to small claims court and start action for some of these, which could be pretty costly or take up a lot of staff time. Other than that, there's a large group of them that can't be collected. So what that means for us is we're carrying this receivables liability year after year, and we need to action it so that the stuff that's too old is abated or we let go of it, and then focus on the stuff that we can collect. So this would be a multiple step process. But first, we talked about it before with the fire chief, and I'll pop it up on the screen here. Give me 1 second. So this is a list of, and the names are taken out to protect folks, but from 2012 to 2015, 92 pages of bills that remain uncollected and that aren't going to be able to be collected at this point unless we take the court action. So what I'm recommending, and the town accountant is recommending, and the fire chief is recommending, is that we write off this bad debt here, or this unpaid bills, and then part two of this action would be to write a policy about how this board wants to attack unpaid bills. And it's not as simple as it sounds. So we all want everyone to pay their bills. We're providing a service and they should pay it, but there are many instances where we're helping people that can't afford the bills, or there's differences in many towns between how they attack bills from residents or non-residents, and many different versions of policies that come into play. So what we're recommending in summary is that we write off this old ambulance receivable list so that we can clean up our books and comply with some of the audit recommendations. And then I have put some examples of policies in your folder, and would like to hear how we want to attack this problem so that we can write a strong policy for the future. And then what would happen is, not this time every year, but just after the turn of the fiscal year, we should have an annual review of the bills, clean up the old bills that we can't collect anymore, and then refocus on collecting the ones we can as part of your annual process, in order to make sure that we remain compliant and don't pile up like this again.
Can you scroll to the bottom of that 92 page just so we can look at the numbers?
Sure.
Right. So this is 2012 to 2015.
Yes.
And we picked those years. Just could you explain it again? Why?
It's the last time that this was done.
Okay.
And
So
then the amount of time that you have to collect on these bills has expired for these bills in 2015. So we can still and are actively trying to collect in 2016, but it's a different process for the older bills.
okay. So I mean, this is, we're approaching $100,000 a year of uncollected services. I'm just right.
Yes. In this report, yes.
Right. But we don't operate obviously in the red as a ambulance service.
So we have ambulance receivables of about 150,000 a year. That's what we've been averaging for the last 5 years. And I don't have the number off the top of my head.
It's hard to assess whether or not that's breaking even or not, right? Because there's so many other factors that come into the total line item for that work.
Yes, let me just briefly call up what ambulance is. So we pay 72,000 for ambulance services, and that's without staff is rolled up in the fire department budget. So
Okay, I'm just trying to understand it. It's hard to wrap 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 ourselves around it. I guess the reason for the question in the first place is, you know, do we? I'm not really questioning this. Is more rhetorical, but you know, is this a service that we should be providing? I'm not advocating not to provide it, but we don't see the numbers like that all that often. So I assume this is a similar condition that many other municipalities have.
yes, and what I'm suggesting here, this multi-tiered approach to this is first we've identified through the audit that there's this backlog of things that we need to deal with, which is what I'm kind of how I'm approaching all finances in town. And we have good finances, so I don't want people to think. But any issue that we have like this, which is identified in the audit, that we have too many receivables from the past, first we got to clean up the past. And then I want to have a larger conversation about how we want to attack this type of thing. And I want to understand the numbers better, just like you do. So is this, we could collect 356,000 if we were going after it, or is that, does that include insurance parts of it, et cetera? So the answer is I don't know, but I want to move to the next phase of this, which is that analyzing that you're talking about. How do we work with Comstar to make sure that we are maximizing not only revenue collection, but our investment in ambulance to make sure that it is quote unquote profitable. And there's more to it than just cash in, cash out. You do want to be able to provide a service, and sometimes that has a cost to it.
Yeah, no doubt. How is the and I get it. This is not like something we're going to figure out or go back and get any of that money. Just trying to understand it, like I said. But how do we select Comstar? How does that work? Is that just a is there a RFP process, or how does that work?
There would be, and we pay them an annual fee.
Okay.
My understanding is that it's exempt from procurement law, so you pick someone you're comfortable with, and there isn't a large number of people that do this. But from what I've seen so far, Comstar does a fairly good job of collecting. In towns that want to get really aggressive with this, they pay money to be aggressive with it. So that's a conversation that needs to be had. How successful could we be, and then what would the impact be on those who can't pay their bills? But like you said, I don't know if that's a tonight conversation, or if you want to direct me to focus on it for a certain time frame, I certainly could.
Ryan, what about the immediate surrounding towns to us? You said earlier you figured a lot of municipalities have this problem. Would it be worth inquiring to our neighbors to see how they deal with this, or what they've done, if in fact they have dealt with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the issue that I'm bringing to you tonight is the expired bills, or the older stuff, and the new stuff. The questions you have are good questions that I have that we need to look into in terms of the service delivery, what our policies are on it, and what we need to do to make sure that we're maximizing, like we do with all departments, as you saw in the goals, the efficiency of the service.
Okay. All right. Well, it says on an agenda here that we need a vote. So I guess the vote would be to abate.
To write it off?
Yeah, 2012 to 2015. On the report. Is that right?
Yes, I'm calling up the motion because I did bring this to council. So this would be the motion, and I would add the caveat that we should abate only those receivables that are statutorily expired or past their useful life.
Would you do that again? Abate only the receivables that are statutory required, and what else?
That are past their collection date.
Okay, past collection date. All right, I'll make the motion, hopefully do it correctly. I move that the board accept the recommendation of the town auditors and vote to abate and write off the uncollected ambulance fees listed on the cumulative disposition report dated September 1, 2020. Also, to abate only those receivables that are a statutory requirement, and also required what was that last part? Past the collection date.
Yes, that we can no longer collect.
Okay, that it passed the collection date that we can no longer collect.
I second that.
Thank
Okay,
you, Katie.
okay, is there any discussion? I'm seeing none, so we'll go to a vote. We'll roll call. Well, Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes,
Okay, it's unanimous. And then we have another related item there, and that has to do with what you just talked about, which is the new ambulance billing abatement process. So what do you want to do tonight? Is there something you want to talk about to give us? I know we've got some information as well, but are we going to set this for another meeting to actually finalize that process?
So, yeah, so I just wanted to introduce this topic because it's, as you can tell, an involved and longer conversation. So we can bring in Comstar reps. We certainly should have a discussion if we're going to discuss this with the fire chief. The reputation of our billing company is very good, and the current operations of our billing is very good. So I wanted to take some of the pressure off by taking off the past. But the questions that you're bringing up and more information we want to know are things that we should know. And the end result might be we should review our bills annually and keep doing the same thing that we're doing, but we should know why we're doing that. And that should be a targeted policy that this board has. So I'd like to show you some policies and bring you some information in the future that allows you to make that decision. I just wanted to introduce it today so we didn't have a, just an information dump on you at a future meeting.
Sounds
and then
good.
you could tell me when you want to focus on that. We can schedule it with all the other things you have to do.
All right, well, why don't we say sometime in November if we can get them? I think just be informationally for us, and then we don't see big bills like that we can't collect. I know it's an aggregate over 4 years or whatever. So, but it'd be nice to hear from the people who deal with it consistently that it's a normal thing. Because right now we're just hearing or hoping that it is, but I'm sure it is. But still, it'd be nice to hear from them, and then to have Chief be able to be there as well. If maybe we can do some invitations and maybe find something in November.
I would second that also, but I would ask to also include, if we could, whatever information we could find out from the neighboring towns around us who may or may not be experiencing this and how they are approaching it.
For sure. And just to allay any fears, certainly in the public, we are strong in our current operations. We are providing an excellent service and collecting bills at a very good rate. We just need to know, like with uncollected taxes, how much resource and time we want to invest in this bad version of billing, which is the uncollected part, and better understand that process so that we're making a deliberative decision.
Okay. Sounds good. Moving on, we're on to 4B, which is the Ragged Hill land disposal. So we put a month and a half ago, I don't remember exactly when, we put these back out to bid, and we got some interesting results, to say the least. So this was lot 4 and lot 5. Want to explain what we got there, Ryan?
Sure. So we sent out an RFP asking people to send in proposals for our land that we own on Ragged Hill. And the board's familiar with this because we've done this before. So we received 2 bidders on each lot, and the bids were identical, $25,500 for each lot. So and it's in your packet, you can read the letter from the Warfield family. They're looking to build a home and perhaps reserve one of the pieces of land for future generations. They put some contingencies on their purchase. They want a good perk that they're willing to pay for, but they don't want to commit until that perk is complete. And they need to buy both lots together. So I ran it by council, and those contingencies are acceptable if the board wants to do that. But those are their contingencies. So their offer is contingent on both of those things being good with the board. The other bid came from D2 Builders, which purchased the other lot. And again, the same exact bid. Both are cash offers, and those are the differences. So those contingencies do make them different enough for you to choose. But if you do choose the Warfield side of it, you need to understand that it's for both with the perk contingencies.
So obviously the safe bet for us is to consider the D2 Builders, because that guarantees the 25,500 times 2. If we decided to move forward with the Warfield, did I say that right, Warfield?
Yes.
Bids, then there's a chance, if the perk doesn't go right, because they've basically qualified their bid by saying, without saying, if the perk didn't go right for whatever reason, then we would not necessarily be able to, they wouldn't buy it. So we'd be taking a chance there. So that's why we're discussing it. This is very rare, especially to happen like this twice. I don't even, and I deal with, I've bid thousands of jobs in the last 20 some odd years in public construction and never have tied. So it's not exactly the same, but it's not that far off from a public RFP process. I mean, they have coin flips if they're exact. That's why I actually asked Ryan to ask counsel. He was going to anyway. But in construction, for example, they literally flip a coin if they're exactly the same. But here we have found that they're not, because there was one that was qualified. So we don't have to go to a process such as a coin flip or throw them out and redo it. We have the ability to choose based on the difference Ryan described. So I don't know. We got a safe bet, or we got
Well, Ryan, what's the impact to tax revenue if each lot has a building on it, a residence on it, or in the Warfield situation where there may be one residence on one of the pieces of land and then the other piece of land is undeveloped? How does that impact our tax revenue?
So right now, because we own it, we don't, obviously, I'm not trying to insult this board, just educate the public. So because we own it, we don't take in any taxes on it. So right now we're getting nothing. If they were to build a house on it, we would get the value of that home times our tax rate annually. And of course the fees that come with building and owning the land. In the Warfield situation, if they built one and didn't build the other, we would still get tax revenue, but it would be for the value of the land, not the value in the home. So it would be significantly less.
right. And she did state in there that she just so we're making sure we're discussing the whole topic. She did state that it was her intention, maybe, I think, I remember exact words, I'm sorry, to potentially have a grandchild have that lot to be able to build on. So I think her intention is to have them 2 houses built, but obviously there might be a lag there as well, which would result in lost revenue if another person was going to build 2 quicker.
Right.
And when you're considering this, there's no guarantee that anybody builds. They're just saying that they will at this point.
But the other thing too that we'd be losing out on is not only the tax revenue for the house, but it's also, they're going to have 2 cars at that house minimum. So there's your excise tax, and they're going to have a dog. So there's a dog license fee, and they're going to put a pool in the back. So they're going to pull a permit for that. And they're going to put a garage in and all these extra fees. Maybe they get a camper and they're going to pay that excise tax as well. And that's all money that goes back in. So by having that house there, I think not only is it the property, but it's all the stuff that we all pay to the town that goes along with our house that people don't even think about.
Right. So we can either keep discussing now, if anyone wants to chime in, or we can get to a point where we choose, somebody makes a motion to accept one of the bids, or I guess it would kind of be both of the bids for lot 4 and lot 5. And then we could see whether or not somebody would second that motion, and we get to discussion again if we want to. So I guess before that, does anyone want to, talk about it before someone wants to maybe make a motion, or is somebody prepared to make a motion?
I'm just gonna abstain from this because I work with Donna with some real estate, so I'm not gonna discuss anything about this.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Okay, anyone else, or where we're at?
Well, I'm trying to be clear in my mind. When you first presented it, Dan, and you kind of leaned towards the other group that got the other parcel. They came in at the same 25,500, right?
Both, yes.
And were both of these bidders for bidding on both parcels?
We are. Just the one problem is that Ms. Warfield made it contingent in her bid that if we were going to accept lot 4, for example, we had to accept lot 5 too. So the perfect scenario here, if she didn't, is that we just award one each, right? That would be ideal because they would each get one, and we could do that based on everything, but we can't because of how she qualified her bid. So we either, give them both or we don't to her. That's how she said we have to proceed.
And the other bid was just for one of the lots, is that correct?
That's not correct. So it was for both the lots. There was two
He
separate,
also bid?
there were 2 separate bids.
So-
Yep.
So we're looking at 2 bids for both of the lots. So
Correct.
either way, for example, if we went with the Warfields and it didn't perk, we lost that on 2 lots again, that will just be sitting around. And if I'm understanding this right, and the gentleman who bid on these 2 lots has already purchased one of them, correct them? Not those 2 lots, but correct it. The last time that we sent out a bid, he was the one that was awarded it, correct?
Yes. So just to be clear, there's several options. You could throw these all out and start the process again, or not start the process again. You could award just one of the lots, but as Dan alluded to, one of them has the contingency,
Mhm.
or you can award both of them, or you could come up with a different process. Like, we think that they're the same, so we're going to flip a coin. It's up to the board to interpret what they want to do.
Yeah, I guess I feel bad, but, I was actually against putting this back out the bid, and I was wrong. We got a couple bids, decent bids. It's 51,000 between the 2 that we can use badly, right? So, this was the point. It's weird the way things turned out, and the tie and the qualified bid and all that, but this was sort of the point. We kind of got there. So I don't know what else we'd be looking for.
So we either go with hoping that the lots perk and give it to the Warfields, or give it to the other bidder, correct?
And not just hoping that the lots perk is right. That is correct. That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. I almost lean towards the other bid just because of he's already got a vested interest in it, in that area with having acquired a lot prior to this.
Well, if you are, you're free to make a motion on that, which I think would be we might have to do them separately, Ryan, just for procedure's sake, 4 and 5, is that right?
Yes.
We would start with 4, and that would be for D2 or not, or somebody else, whatever. Somebody needs to start a motion if we are going to act on this.
What's the name of the initial bidder other than the Warfield? What's the name, so I can mention it in a motion?
D2 Builders is the organization that bid.
D2 as in dog?
As in dog, yes.
D2 Builders, okay. Well, for purposes of discussion, I'll make the motion that I would like to recommend the bid being awarded to D2 builders as presented to us this evening.
And can I just add to that, if you would, to start off for lot 4?
Oh, full lot 4, okay? Yeah,
Okay, so that's the motion on the table.
I will second that.
Okay, that's seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the table to award. I guess we're still in discussion, so I will just restate this. So we're all clear. We're a motion to award D4 builders. In doing this, this excludes Ms. Warfield from lot 5 because her contingency was that we have to award both. So just being clear about that. So we're now in discussion. Anything further discussion from anyone else? No? Okay, we're at a vote and we're going to roll call. The way I do this is who's on my screen. So that's the order always. Dan, yes. Pat,
Abstain.
Stain, Chris,
Yes.
Jeff,
yes,
Katie.
Yes,
Okay, so it's unanimous with Pat abstaining. And now we are on to another motion, if we so choose, for lot 5.
well, if I understand it, now that we've awarded 4 to the D2, the Warfields are out of it anyway.
But we still have to.
They want
award it.
both, correct?
We would still have to award it
To-
and accept the bid for D2 for 5.
Okay, I'll make the same motion that we accept the bid of D2 builders for lot 5 as presented this evening.
I second that.
There's a second, Katie seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to roll call. Dan, yes. Pat,
Abstain.
Chris,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes,
Katie.
Yes,
Okay, it's unanimous except for Pat abstaining. Thanks, everyone. I think that's a little tricky, but I think we did that as fair as we can. All right, Ryan, that closes that, correct?
Yes.
All right, so we have another item of new business to vote on. It's the Quabbin Regional School District intermunicipal agreement for the center school roof borrow. I want to just give us a quick reminder for everyone, Ryan, why this is here.
Okay, so the way that our agreement is written with Quabbin and the lease for the Hubbardston Center School, there's 2 different entities that could borrow for the upcoming school roof project, which is still 6 to 9 months away, but it comes fast and we're trying to line everything up to make sure that we're efficient with this project. So it's in our benefit. This is my recommendation to the board based off conversations with the school and town council that we be the ones to borrow for the project. Normally for school projects, they would borrow and then we would just pay them as part of our assessment under the school debt version. But we have a stronger bond rating, and in this particular instance, it's for our building, and we want to control the process and just make sure that it's in the best interest of the town. Not that the schools wouldn't do that, but they agree and we agree that we should be the ones borrowing. In order to do that, we need an intermunicipal agreement with them. So 2 government entities agreeing that we be the ones that borrow it, because it is a little different than normal. It happens a lot, and these IMAs are pretty standard. So we went back and forth with council about the language, because they had done this previously with another town, Quabbin, and they had a version, and then our town council wanted to put in some stronger language. Then we involved bond council. What was changed from their IMA to ours was a clause that allows us to protect ourselves from anything that would make our bonds not tax exempt. So if they're not going to do this, but 20 years from now, if they brought in a contractor that did something where we lost our tax exempt status on the bond, it would be pretty catastrophic for the town. So we added some language in there. Our council is happy with the draft. Bond council is happy with the draft, which we need in order to borrow anyways. So this is fully vetted and recommended to you for an intermunicipal agreement that would allow us to borrow and is protecting the town for that process.
do you have that written out as to how it would appear in the motion?
that you would accept the intermunicipal agreement with the Quabbin Regional District for the purposes of the center school roof borrowing. People like documents. Here is the IMA.
Okay, I'll try to put it in the form of a motion if that's what you want, and you may have to help me here.
Sure.
I move that we accept the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Hubbardston and QRSD, correct? The Quabbin Regional School District,
Yes.
for the center roof borrow.
That's good.
I'll second that.
Okay, Pat seconds. Any discussion? Nope, we're going to vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes.
Chris? Is your volume on, Chris? Did you say yes?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Sounds good. So we have another item to vote on, and that is item 4D, and that is the declaration of surplus equipment.
As part of the capital plan this year, we purchased a new emergency response vehicle for the fire chief. This was done with a Holden Hospital account, which is money that we use or that we receive from the closing of Holden Hospital that helps fund emergency vehicle equipment and training and Board of Health activity. So the fire chief has a surplus truck now, the 2007 Ford Explorer. We need a vote from this board to declare it surplus so we can put it out to auction the same way we did the DPW equipment last time.
I'll make a motion to declare the chief's old vehicle surplus.
with the intent of putting it out to bid, is that correct?
Auction.
Auction.
Yeah.
Can you add that, Pat?
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes, I will.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, Jeff seconds. Any discussion? We'll vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. And one more item on new business that we need to have a vote for. I want to pull up the fiscal year 22 budget calendar for us.
Okay, so less than a week after we passed the FY21 budget, we are starting the 22 process, and that's done with the budget planning calendar. So this allows me to slot all of the budget requirements into your meeting schedule and inform other boards who are involved, like the CIPC and the Finance Committee. So some highlights here, you would, as has become standard with me, you would get your 5-year financial forecast and your capital plan presentation in mid-December and then early January, with all budget requests coming into me by December 23rd, to then put together a budget for presentation to you on March 15th. Same date, we would open the town meeting warrant, go through the warrant process with your finalized signature on May 11th. And then next year, we would be holding town meeting on June 1st and June 8th if the pandemic would just let us have a normal process.
do you want a motion at this point or anything else?
You would need to approve this calendar and then we get to work on it.
Okay, I'll make the motion to accept the FY22 budget calendar as presented by Brian tonight.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote. Dan, roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Sounds good. All good. Now we're on to old business. That would be item 5. These are things we've been discussing the last couple of meetings. The first is 5A, the Board of Selectmen fiscal year 21 goals. So we discussed this a lot at our I think it was our last meeting before town meeting, special town meeting. And I said I would compile what I thought was what the will of the group was, with removing some from last year, keeping a couple, adding a few, and all that. So I did that, and that's what we've got in front of us. Ryan, can you pull that up? Okay, so I'm going to actually read them because, these are important. This is what we've said we're going to do, right? So I'll read them. I'll go one by one. And then sort of at the end, if we want to, if we're okay with it, and we can move to a point where we can vote that these are going to be our goals, or we can do whatever we want. But I'll just start at the top. So first bullet is prioritize road maintenance by committing to large and small repair projects as outlined in the fiscal year 21-25 road maintenance plan. Continue to invest money into road repair where possible and communicate the status of the plan to the public on a semi-annual basis. I kept that from last year, except I changed it from fiscal year 20 to 24 to 21-25 because we know we'll be updating that consistently. Second was continue to develop a plan to replace, repair, restore municipal building space. So this is something that we said we didn't want to stick our head in the sand about. So removing it from our goals seemed like something that we probably shouldn't do. So it's something that's really hard to do and something that's out there. And I know we've mentioned to Ryan that's important to us for have him keep that in his sights as well. The next one was investigate and execute the sale use of town-owned land. This is also a carryover from last year. The next bullet is coordinate with the Parks Department to execute their 5-year strategic plan and ensure the long-term viability of the Curtis Recreational Field. It's one of those things we put on last year that we really didn't get into at all. So I actually mean to join the parks during a meeting in the somewhat near future to be able to talk about how we can sort of work with them on this, which will go into a goal later on that you'll see from Katie. The next bullet is work on sustainable options for seniors in the senior center in a COVID-19 environment and beyond. Find ways to provide services even when with the potential of temporary closures. Talked about that last meeting. We have a responsibility there. Next bullet is build on an improved relationship with QRSD administration. Continue to work with other Quabbin towns on the annual QRSD assessment process. Finalize a plan to approach QRSD early in the budget process, establishing what each town can afford to contribute. So again, in the last year, talked a lot about this. We've met with, different towns and that all got stopped because of COVID. So just making sure we still have it there. And the next item is work with the Economic Development Committee to use Route 68 North, which is done, South, which is done, and Town Center Project, which is slated to be done in the next couple of years, as centerpieces to attract new small business to the improved Route 68 trunk corridor area. So as we discussed, we've got sort of a really once in a generation opportunity to draw people into a fully beautified area of town, and it'd be great to do that and work with the EDC. And then the last one was reach out as BOS, Board of Selectmen liaisons, which we are, to other town committees and boards, which we go through early in the year to establish, to share responsibility on what's going on, offer help, and improve communication in implementing the overall master plan for the town. So, Katie, I hope that I worded that correctly with the sort of intent that you had, good enough, I guess, right, for now. And sort of that was it. So those are our goals. And, we're happy to discuss, if anyone wants to mention anything, or Ryan, before I get to that, should we vote on them just to make them, to sort of memorialize them?
You do traditionally vote on them, and I think it's a good symbol to the staff and the other boards and committees that, goal setting is part of the process here in Hubbardston. And it does help me plan your meetings and assist in some of these goals as well. For example, in looking at the board's goals, if you were to keep the municipal building space as part of your goals for the year and vote on it, then we would, as we talked about last year, empower the CIPC, which is your capital planning advisory board, to start working on what that might look like. So there are action items from voting on this that are important, and that'll come back to you the way you want them to.
Great, nice addition. So, okay, well, there we are.
I'll make a motion then to accept the Board of Selectmen FY21 goals as presented by Chairman Glant.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded. Any discussion? We will vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes,
Chris?
No,
Did he say yes or no?
no.
Okay. So we have 4 yeses and 1 no. The motion passes. So next would be the town administrator goals. Ryan, feel free. We've seen them a few times. So yeah, I know you have some pretty elaborate goals. Feel free to go through every one of them if you'd like, or summarize it however you'd like to proceed.
So the main reason for me bringing these to you is you are my boss and evaluation. You do my annual evaluation. So I want to make sure that you're understanding what I'm planning to work on. And by voting on this, you sign off on it, and then I bring these projects back to you. And obviously that input process continues, but this is sort of the initial part of it. So my goals are organized into different categories: community and outreach, what I'm doing to improve our departments, and that's heavily based off of their department goals. Human resources, you've heard me talk about a lot. Budget and finance, I feel like we're at a good point. We create a good, transparent budget process that thinks about the future. So I want to build on that and try and tie it to longer term planning this year. And then for infrastructure, that's something I inherited that this town is very focused on. We've been making some strong gains. Just want to make sure that I am following that lead and continuing those projects.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I guess we're at a point here if we feel comfortable with Ryan's goals here to make a motion and vote on it.
all right, I'll offer the motion and to accept the town administrator FY21 goals as presented by Ryan tonight.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
yes,
Chris?
Yes,
Unanimous. All right. Sounds good. So next is the TA report. You're up again, Ryan?
Right. Okay, so my report for, we're starting a new year, so I'm just trying to make sure we're also continuing to educate the public on what we do. So my report is information sent to you, the board, on what I've been working on the last couple of weeks and updating you on things that you're asking about and concerned about. So COVID-19, which is still there. It's still a focus of ours. It's no longer dominating everything we do as we try and keep town government moving, but it is important that we are monitoring. And right now we're doing so through the state's Commonwealth Health Dashboard. And this also provides metrics that are heavily used by schools and town halls and other public entities to monitor cases. So if we were to get an outbreak at QRSD or in our community, it would change our status, and then we would have some reactions to do with that. So this provides a link to that data site. Right now, we are as low a risk as you could be, which matches our hybrid school services delivery and our stance of being open but cautious. In terms of the department report, I've sent out a full draft of our updated personnel policies. The staff did a good job digging into these and sending me comments, that period closes tomorrow. I will send them back the revised policies, and then they will again have a week to comment on those. And then at your meeting in October, we'll have UMass Boston coming in to talk to you about some of our strengths and weaknesses in HR, and then talk to you about our policy development process. I will go over, there are not many changes to our personnel policies except strengthening them and matching them to law, but there are some decision points, and I will present those to you for your approval. You are the approval authority for any policy changes. And then just like the board to know that the police department filed an IT grant this week that would grant them enough money to improve their police radios and add body cameras and the video cameras that we actually just voted at town meeting. So hopefully they're successful with that grant and we won't need to use the money that was approved by the residents, and we can use that for a different purpose. The special town meeting is now over. Thank you to the residents and for all town officials for their work on a very long budget year that ended in October this year. And the state is still not done, and we won't know the end result of their budget until December. But all the things that impact us directly are done. Our budget is done, and we've put up a copy of this on the town website. And then I've compiled a budget book that we will that we released today to the public, and provides a ton of information on the decision-making process and where every dollar is being spent. In terms of infrastructure, Travis and I toured the major projects in town. It's 2 weeks ago now. I'm sorry, last week. We went to Evergreen Bridge and then the Route 62 bridge projects. And then I toured the maintenance project that Travis talked to you about now in the spring. This was
Excuse me,
done.
Ryan. Can you just scroll that up more? I'm not seeing that. The infrastructure update. Can you scroll it?
Is that good?
No, all I've got is last week I visited all current. There we go. Thank you very much.
Okay. So the maintenance work that DPW did on Hale, New Templeton, Old Princeton, Hillville roads, this applied a binding material to the roads that is going to allow the roads to last longer. So if you look at some of our roads that are now that were done recently, but when I say done, they were reclaimed or resurfaced, there's some imperfections and some holes in the road. And what happens is the water gets into those imperfections, and then you start seeing potholes and other deficiencies that create some of our bad roads in town. So what this application did was it sealed up those holes, and then the DPW added sand so that it all binded together to create a surface that is supposed to last 5 to 10 years longer than it would have. So we're looking at doing this on some of our roads so they don't get to the reclaiming road maintenance plan as quickly as possible, which will allow us to focus Chapter 90 monies on reclaiming roads and maintaining them at the same time.
Hey, how did we, I got a few questions about this while we're dumping sand all over the roads. How did we advertise this? Did we advertise it? I'm sorry if I missed it, or it was on Facebook, or the reasoning for it or whatnot. I think the next time we do it, we maybe should bring it up here first, maybe even in a board meeting, and then make sure we do advertise it. Because I did, you know, don't get all that many questions, but I did get 2 or 3 on what we were doing there.
Sure, and we did too. And we had a lot of DPWs come and look at the work as well, because it is very cost effective, and it seems to be an effective treatment, but
Yep.
it's newer. Travis came to talk to you about spending some additional monies this year on road maintenance, and this was the result of that. But if you're saying you wanted to hear more about the specific application, that's my fault, and I can certainly bring him in.
No. I'm
the
saying
future.
that the public, just knowing that, you know, a little bit more on the process. You know, I think we've all seen different types of road repairs. This was a new one. And so I think people were confused on why there was sand everywhere.
Yeah, that's fair. So
yeah.
the sand was for when you apply the sand to the top of this and then the cars drive over it, it helps bind the road.
And then we
Yeah.
sweep it. I get it. But I think just people understanding the process, knowing that we're eventually going to get to that point where we're cleaning up after the important repairs are made.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. And we did field some concerns about it. We went and met with each person that had concerns and showed them why we were doing it. and did try and allay those, but some preventative maintenance there in terms of public relations is something that I'll make sure is done next year. If this is done again and resources allow.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. And I just said, if anyone has any questions, would be happy to meet with them one-on-one, meet them out in the field, as they say, to go over that. Certainly something we do a lot. So we had our first dispatch regionalization meeting. As you remember, the board asked me to look into this. Chief Parent and I are on this board, along with 2 representatives from each town. There's some selectmen members, there's a fire chief, another police chief. It's a good mix of folks. So we're looking at, I reached out to State 911 and got a bunch of IMAs and different type of regionalizations that dispatch has, and found that we're on the weaker end of a IMA agreement, meaning that our IMA is not very specific on what we want the dispatch relationship to look like. So this could be everything from controlling the annual budget process to creating a board of directors to hiring a separate treasurer, and on and on. So the first meeting was pretty informative, just talking about the different relationships that exist. And we set a goal of looking at governance and financial structure at the next meeting to provide some recommendations. And the goal for this is by the end of the calendar year to send some recommendations back to each board to talk about strengthening the IMA, not necessarily reinventing the whole wheel or creating something that would cost a lot of money, but strengthen the reporting processes and the financial oversight so that we have more of a say in the budgeting process, which has been the primary complaint from my office and finance committee, et cetera. So the meeting went really well. Paring it down to just a couple representatives has really helped move the conversation. And this first swing at bringing information to you will be all about gathering your input and then bringing it back to the committee so that it's a good process, back and forth process that ends up with a good product. And then lastly, for employee recognition, just want to talk for a second about the immense challenge of bringing our students back to school and how many people were involved in just the logistics of that, never mind the decision-making process. So just wanted to recognize the superintendent, the school committee, the staff, Joe Peterson at the center school, all the effort that went into getting kids back to school and in the building. Sometimes it gets lost in the conversation about what we should or shouldn't be doing and people's different feelings on it. Just opening the door was a tremendous feat. So just wanted to recognize them. And then also their communication with our public safety officials has been excellent. Sergeants Kucher and Fort, and then our officers Blood, Bergeron, DePietro have been working to make sure that the drop off is smooth. They worked with Travis on getting signage and cones to make sure that everything went as smooth as possible, because it can be very frustrating for parents. And we knew that it would be an issue and a problem because regular drop off is. So they really focused on it and got ahead. There's definitely room for improvement in everything, and they're doing it. But overall, it felt safe and smooth and like a team effort. So just wanted to thank everybody for their involvement in that. They're certainly not going to stop. It's not over. They're going to keep learning about it. But I thought that was worthy of noting and recognition.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Ryan, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a time frame? Do you have a time frame on the completion of the Evergreen Bridge project?
So we expect that project to be done this time next year. So it's about,
Is the road going to remain closed until then?
it will, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I have some pictures that we took, if folks, because we don't really want a ton of people going down there, but for those who haven't seen it, they diverted the entire river with copper shields, and they had to basically dam and dry everything first so that they can pour the concrete. It's a massive project. So putting in the new bridge to standard and spec on the state's dime is good, but it required a tremendous amount of infrastructure change and effort. And it will unfortunately result in that detour for a year, as will the Route 62 bridge as well. And then in 2 years, we'll be doing the Williamsville Road Bridge, which will cause the same disruption.
They've had excellent weather for it. Okay. Oh, if nothing else, we'll move on. So we have a policy to review regarding plowing of private ways, which is always sort of a hot topic.
The board asked me to put together a draft on some of the things that we were thinking about. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Zoom's great, but the amount of documents I have up is just. Okay. So this takes our old policy, and the only thing that is added besides updating some language is it's not a change, but just making sure that it's called out that the roads need to be in adequate condition for the town to perform the work. This protects our employees, our equipment, and the job itself. So for those who don't know, the town can vote, and this policy lays out the policy for the town to plow private ways. And what this is saying in this particular one I'm highlighting is that the road needs to be plowable. That's not new, it's just calling it out. And then the only other thing that we added to our current policy is that the list of eligible roads would be submitted to you by the DPW director in September each year. This helps us budget and get ready for the winter. So Travis does send out letters to these roads that we do this work on to make sure that they're hitting their maintenance objectives. And then we tour the road to make sure it's in good condition, which we work with residents to make sure it is. Not providing any materials or resources without that coming to the board, of course. And then these roads they are plowed based off of an investment in our operating budget. So this is a final draft for you to review, comment on, and change if you want as part of your ongoing policy review.
Okay. I mean, I just chime in, start the process here, start the conversation. I mean, I've reviewed it. I think it looks great. I don't know if anyone wants more time, just feel free and we can push it off to another meeting. If not, we can discuss or vote on it tonight.
I've got a question concerning item 3 there, where it says the condition is determined by Travis, in our case, in our town. What happens if he makes the determination that one particular road is not up to the level that it should be, and the residents don't agree with that, and then we have a debate? How is that handled?
So it's a good question. The reason for this is a road comes to town meeting and says, please use public funds in order to plow our road. And they agree in that relationship to meet certain standards. So it happens every year that we review the roads, and there are some changes that need to be made to the roads in order not to damage our plows and other concerns. I've seen this process myself, where Travis made recommendations that the road be improved, and it was a back and forth conversation that was very amicable, and it's always been solved. In a worst case scenario, that would come to you as representatives of the town to make a decision on whether or not the DPW director or the residents were right in that particular situation. So this policy does allow for that, and I could see it happening someday.
Just a question then, Ryan. I mean, I assume that was the case. Should that be part of the policy as written out, or should it just be left as it's understood that if there were a question, the final decision would be in the hands of the Board of Selectmen? You see, then, is there any need to have it written? I'm just asking.
I could see a need for that. If you wanted to say approve this, adding that language, that could be done, or we could work on it right now to figure that out.
I would ask if any other members of the board feel that way,
Sure.
if it's necessary.
Yeah, sure.
Then I would ask you to put that in if you would.
it at least provides a mechanism to move to the next step, right? Anyway, so it's a mechanism.
Exactly.
Brian, what is what would happen if we deemed a road plowable, that the town would plow a private way and we caused damage, in the process of plowing, we caused damage to the private way or to property on that private way? How would that be handled by the town?
So we would not be liable for that damage, as long as there was no gross negligence on our employees. So that's why you really want the DPW director to make sure the road is plowable, because that could be a source of contention. But if we did damage something and it was because of negligence, we would pay for it. If it was just through the course of regular work, then we would not be liable based off this statute.
Okay, good.
So I'm adding this here, since no motion's been made. If there's a disagreement between the road residents and the DPW director, the final decision about the condition of the road will be determined by the Board of Selectmen.
Do you want to say, I'm sorry, anyone, whatever, through consultation with the Board of Selectmen? Because, I don't know how qualified we are necessarily to determine it. So you want to say like through consultation with the Board of Selectmen? Just, does that make sense to you guys?
How about you,
We lost you.
put select board?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We
oh
can't.
yeah, remember?
We can't yet.
Oh,
For real, seriously?
Soon.
That's okay. I probably got the biggest balls at this table anyway, so,
And then
Sorry,
I'll turn my
oops.
video off.
Anyway. So how come we can't change that yet?
Because the decision, I can give you the real, I'm trying to make it as short as possible. The charter is
Yeah,
state
short.
law. So you sent the charter to be approved. It changed state law to allow you to be governed the way you are. In order to change anything in your charter, you need the state to approve it. So we're waiting for the state to approve it. That was quick. That was
Gotcha.
quick.
Yeah,
good.
that was.
Okay, so this now reads, if there's a disagreement between road residents and the DPW director, the final decision about the condition of the road will be determined through consultation with the Board of Selectmen.
Sounds good.
okay. Jeff kind of went away there. So if we want to continue on with
No, I said sounds good. Right now, I'm the only one on the screen right now. It's like everybody else. Okay.
Okay, well, so we have a document. Do we want to vote on it?
I'll make a motion to approve the plowing of private ways as presented.
Second the motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. Okay. All right, we're almost there for open session items. So we don't have any appointments or resignations, and we don't have any wage authorizations. Is that correct?
Correct.
So we have one set of minutes from August 31st, 2020. You want to either call them up or remind us who was there?
Just calling them up.
Okay, there they are.
Okay, I'll make the motion to accept the minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting on August 31st, 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay, that's seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Abstain.
Means, Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
Yes,
And Chris?
Yes,
Okay, sounds good. So it passes. They are approved. On to item 12. Matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I don't have any. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up? Nope. And we are at item 13, public press and question and answer. I don't see any attendees on there. Ryan, any chat items, anything else? Nope. Okay, so we do have an executive session tonight, correct? We haven't done one of, you're on mute. We haven't done one of those on Zoom yet. Can you talk us through that?
you basically
So-
need the motion correct to be read.
So once the motion is made, I will stop this recording. This is also for the public. I'll stop this recording. We will make sure that no one enters our Zoom room, and we will record the executive session, and then those minutes will be created and held until they're no longer needed. And that video will not be released to the public unless requested and allowed to be released.
Okay. I'll make the motion if you want to adjourn the meeting, the public meeting, and move into executive session with no intent of coming back out into a public meeting. Going into executive session under the general laws, chapter 38, paragraph 21A, 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detriment in the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. New England
Yep.
Police Benevolent Association Incorporated Local 092 and Town of Hubbardston Police Department, Teamsters Union Local number 170, and the Hubbardston DPW Police Chief Dennis Perrone and Town Administrator Ryan McLean.
Okay,
Dan, did you say you declare it? Because usually you do.
I did, as you said
I
that. Yep.
didn't hear it. Okay, thank you. I didn't hear it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and is there any discussion? No, we will vote. Roll call. Dan, yes. Pat?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes,
Katie?
yes.
Chris?
yes.
Okay.